Hello, Nerdy Librarian here, bringing you another episode of Legendary Playthroughs Elder Scrolls V Skyrim Special Edition. This is episode 30, I want to say. So, when last we left Felix Oddball, he had been traversing through Felglow Keep after having made his way across the snowy wildlands in the in the northwestern part of Skyrim, towards this place, a stronghold of mages, if you will. On the way, he encountered wolves, a dragon that nearly did him in, but he managed to avoid those and get into the fort itself through the dungeons. Creeping forwards, he was encountered by several mages in front of him and caged vampires. He dispatched all of these, ensuring that there were no threats to him. From there, he found Orthorn, the prodigal mage from the College of Winterhold that had stolen the books. One, in theory, in question is one that Felix needs in order to learn more about the mysterious orb that had previously been found in Sorthal. Sadly, Orthorn perished in an ensuing battle with mages and Atronachs. But Felix has continued and made his way into what appears to be some sort of old library deep within Felglow Keep. So that's where we left off. Gonna jump right back into it. This is part 2 of hitting the books. Oh. Good thing I have a high sneak skill. That could have been bad. There's 2 of them. Oh gosh, there's 2 of them. How do I deal with this?
Did you hear something?
Did you hear something? I didn't hear anything. Novice Storm Mage, excellent. Fairly easy to take out. Looks like Conjurer's trying to follow me, which is not good for them. Good for me.
Huh?
I must have missed this early. Oh no, never mind. It's barred from the other side. So I didn't miss it. Yeah, no. Yeah, I've been here. Definitely been there before. I ought to know that. It's just when you don't play a quest continually all the way through, splitting it into 2 episodes, because especially without recording all of them during the same day, it can be like, huh, where was I yesterday? What was I doing? Yeah, it's one of those moments. It's definitely one of those moments where I just have to wonder, what was I doing again? Where am I? I'm not lost. At least I don't think.
Just a scratch. What was that?
Hey, you sound like the Black Knight from Monty Python. Just a scratch. 'Tis but a flesh wound. Ooh, coin purse. And Filter of the Warrior. Why not? Let's take that. Anything else interesting on these shelves worth noting? Empty bottles of wine, iron mace, ruined books, more ruined books. Yeah. Like I said, this appears to be some sort of old library, but it's seen far too much disrepair. It's been tarnished. Take the alchemy ingredients, though. I can definitely utilize those down the line. The Ethereum Wars seems to be the only book that survived this. Let's go ahead and read this. The Ethereum Wars by Tyron Drath. Dedicated to Katra, my friend and colleague. The end, when it came, was swift. In the span of 3 short years, the great dwarven cities of Skyrim, from Markarth to the Velote Mountains, fell before the armies of the High King. Cities that had held fast against the Nords for over 100 years crumbled abruptly and without warning. For centuries, scholars have marveled at the sudden collapse of the Dwemer city-states. Even the Nords seem to have been taken by surprise, though their chroniclers were quick to ascribe this success to King Jale's inspired tactics and the blessings of Shore. My research suggests a much different cause, however. In the decades preceding the fall, the dwarven cities of Skyrim had been decimated by internal disputes and infighting over a most surprising cause: Aetherium. Modern scholars know Aetherium as a rare luminescent blue crystal found in some Dwemer ruins. Most consider it little more than a curiosity, as it has proven all but impossible to work with. While it has a strong magical aura, it is alchemically inert. In no known process can enchant, smelt, mold, bind, or break it. To the dwarves, of course, such problems were merely a challenge. In the years following King Harold's reign, the Dwemer discovered a considerable source of Aetherium in their deepest delvings. An alliance of 4 cities, led by Arkanthums, the great research center in this southern reach, was formed to oversee its extraction, processing, and study, and a new Aetherium forge constructed to smelt it under precisely controlled conditions. If the inscriptions I discovered were to be believed, the results were nothing short of spectacular. The items produced by the forge were artifacts of immense power, imbued from the moment of their creation with powerful enchantments. The Dwarven Alliance shattered almost immediately as the 4 city-states and their rivals attempted to claim the forge. We can only speculate that none were successful. Decades of conflict merely weakened them all, allowing for King Jele's subsequent conquests. And though the Dwemer reclaimed most of their lands a century later, there is no evidence that they ever resumed their research on Aetherium. Perhaps the costs had just been too great. But nothing like the Aetherium forge described in the inscriptions has ever been found within the borders of Skyrim. It may have been destroyed long ago by the Nord invaders or the Dwemer themselves, or perhaps it, like the secrets of Aetherium itself, still remains to be discovered. Huh. Oh! Ha! That. See, this is why you read books, people. They give you quests. Don't skip the knowledge. Don't skip the reading. Hit the book. Which, ironically, is the name of this quest. But still, hit the books, people. Come on. Alright. Well, let's continue up this way. Continuing to check... if I can talk. Continuing to check for traps and runes and those sorts of things. Okay. Looks to be an abandoned bedroom. What's in this chest? Some gold and a lesser soul gem. Okay, not much, but it's decent. Also, I'm gonna quick save because I got that quest earlier. Ooh. That's a flame rock. Good. And I think the lesser soul gem just went to use there. Oh! No. Oh, that flew right over Felix's shoulder. That was... Ooh. Terrifying. Nothing to see here. Only shadow and darkness.
I'm going to find you.
Oh, sure.
Must have scared him off.
Show you. Scared. You think I'm scared?
Someone there.
Oh, missed it. You think I'm scared, you fool. Oh, Felglow Keep Key. Excellent. Excellent. Now I have access to this place. I can unlock all the doors in here. What have we got here? We got anything good here? No chests. What do we have? Steel helmet, swamp fungal pod. Satchel with some gold, lockpicks, and a potion of vigorous stamina. I'll take that. Leather strips, okay. I'm not gonna search the sack because that's just gonna end up being food, and I don't really. Well, Felix doesn't really need to be carrying food around on him. Oh, and another thing of fire salts, so we can return those to Balamund as well. Oh, good. A staircase. Oh, boy. Okay. Scroll of Ice Spike, Potion of Resist Fire. Alright. Over here we have Potion of Extreme Healing, a Potion of Minor Healing, more Ruined Books. Another Scroll of Ice Spike. Seems like that's pretty well it. Float, Felglow Keep, Ritual Chamber.
My home and laid waste to my projects. How nice to meet you.
Who are you?
Names no longer matter. You may refer to me as the Caller. Now, do you have a reason for making such a mess?
I'm here for the books from the college.
So you're just one of Arin's lackeys. That's disappointing. You show real promise. You come here, kill my assistants, disrupt my work. You've annoyed me, so I don't think I'll be giving you anything.
Perhaps we can come to an arrangement.
I'm afraid you don't have anything worth trading. Now, you can go back to your college and leave me be, or I can kill you. Your choice.
May I please have the books?
Oh, now we're all please and thank you, are we? I'm afraid we're well beyond pleasantries. I'll allow you the opportunity to turn around, walk out that door, and never come back. I suggest you move quickly.
Of course. See, I'm not going anywhere without those books.
Are you attempting to threaten me after I've been so hospitable? Well, then you won't be leaving here at all.
Oh no, this is bad. Oh! Oh! No, Felix. Okay. Oh boy. Okay. I'm gonna look something up here because so the caller automatically summons 2 Frost Atronachs. Well, this is a terrifying battle. Kind of makes me wish I had Orthorn with me, because I really don't like getting locked in a chamber with a boss battle like that. Let's see here. Oh boy. Yeah, with it being a legendary playthrough, I don't know if I have a lot of options here. I want to check something first here. Okay. I'm going to try something stupid here. If good old brute force won't work, then maybe
So
charisma
you're the
will.
one who barged into my home and laid waste to my projects. How nice to meet you.
I'm here for the books from the college.
So you're just one of Arin's lackeys. That's disappointing. You show real promise. You come here, kill my assistants, disrupt my work. You've annoyed me, so I don't think I'll be giving you anything.
Let me leave the books, and there won't be any more trouble.
Fine. Take them and be gone. Never return here, or else you'll face my full wrath.
Oh, your full wrath. That sounds fantastic. Night of Tears. Night of Tears, Draenor's Silith. Sorthol holds a prominent place in Skyrim history, even if most do not remember it by name. It is, of course, the site of one of the first major Nord settlements, one of the first cities of men in Skyrim, and the earliest known capital of their civilization. And it was also the site of terrible bloodshed, when the elves attempted to drive the Nords out of Skyrim, to succeed only in incurring their wrath in the form of Ysgramor and his fabled 500 companions, who swept the elves from Skyrim and firmly established it as the home of the Nords. All this is known, but little else. What happened on that Night of Tears, when Sorthol was razed to the ground, what provoked the elves to such a deliberate, vicious attack, and what prompted such a severe response from the Nords. Vengalmo's treatise on the Altmer antecedents suggests that the elves of the Merithic era, along with their counterparts of the early Dwemer, possessed a degree of sophistication unparalleled in Tamriel. They displayed power beyond what could be expected at the time. While a distinct explanation is not given for this, I believe that this work, compared with the early writings of Heseth, Shurinus, suggests that something greater was at work on that night in Sorthol. The true motives behind the Night of Tears have been obscured to us by the passage of time, but I believe this was not a simple war of territory, war of control of Skyrim. I believe that what happened was a significant event based around something very particular. The Nords found something when they built their city, buried deep in the ground. They attempted to keep it buried, but the elves learned of it and coveted it for themselves. Thus they assaulted Sorthol, their goal not to drive the Nords out, but to secure this power for themselves. I believe Ysgramor knew something of what the elves would find under Sorthol, and rallied together as people to keep the elves from gaining it. When Nords once again controlled Skyrim, this power was buried deep below the earth and sealed away. Time has kept this knowledge from us, but it is my hope that time will also reveal the truth of these words. Every effort will be made to relocate Sorthol and find that which has been lost to us. Alright. Over here we have The Last King of the Aelids by Emina Sina. The Aelids, or Heartland High Elves, ruled Cyrodiil in the long ages of myth before the beginning of recorded history. One of the earliest recorded dates, in fact, is the fall of White Gold Tower in First Era 243, which is commonly assumed to mark the end of the Aelids. Although Aelid rule over all of Cyrodiil was indeed broken in First Era 243, this was only one of the most obvious stages near the end of a long decline. The first 2 centuries of the First Era saw increasing strife between the great Aelid lords of Cyrodiil. Alessia appears to have taken advantage of a period of civil war to launch her uprising. Imperial historians have traditionally attributed her victory to intervention from Skyrim, but it appears that she had at least as much help from rebel Aelid lords during the siege of White Gold Tower. The popular image of the Aelids as brutal slave masters is based in fact, of course, but it is less well known that a number of Aelid princes continued to rule parts of Cyrodiil after 243, as vassals of the new Empress of Cyrodiil. This suggests either that Aelid rule was not universally detested, or that Alessia and her successors were more pragmatic than is traditionally believed, or perhaps some of both. In any event, excavations at a number of Aelid sites show continued occupation, and even expansion during the so-called late Aelid period, First Era 243 to 498. At least many Aelid lords continued to rule as vassals of the new human regime. In some cases, Aelid supporters of Alessia were even rewarded with new lands taken from slain enemies. It is not clear to what extent human slavery continued under the Cyrodiil Empire. Humans continued to dwell in the Aelid-ruled areas of Cyrodiil, but there is nothing definitive to show under what term. This was an uneasy relationship from the beginning, and was not destined to last long. Resentment at the continued presence of Aelid nobles within the empire was a contributing factor to the rise of the so-called Alessian order, founded by Moruk. The first victims of the Alessians were the Aelids of Cyrodiil. In the early 300s, the surviving Aelid communities in human-ruled areas were obliterated, one by one, the refugees temporarily swelling the power of the remaining Aelid lordships. Then, in 361, the Alessians gained control of the empire and enforced the Alessian doctrines throughout its domain. The Aelid lordships were abolished. Enforcement of this decree does not appear to have required much direct violence. It seems that by this point the balance of power was so overwhelmingly against them, and their fate was so long foreshadowed, that most of the remaining Aelids simply left Cyrodiil, eventually being absorbed into the elven populations of Velenwood and High Rock. Indeed, the rise of the Durrani hegemony may be linked to the exodus of Aelids from Cyrodiil, a connection so far little studied by historians. Still, a remnant Aelid population seems to have survived the rule of the Alessians, because we hear of the last king of the Aelids joining the Battle of Glenumbra Moors, where the Durranis decisively defeated the Alessians in 482. How this king's people survived the preceding century is unknown. We do not even know who they were, although recent research points to Nenalata as a possible resting place of this last king. Unfortunately, in the current state of the empire, funds are no longer available for proper scientific investigation of such extensive ruins, so the answer to these questions will have to be left to future generations. And lastly, we have Fragment on Artaeum. Oop, meant to read it, not just take it. Torsil Anselma. The Isle of Artaeum. Artaeum is the third largest island in the Somerset archipelago, located south of the Morundian village of Potenza and west of the mainland village of Runsebe. It is best known for being home to the Sijic order, perhaps the oldest monastic group in Tamriel. The earliest written record of Sijics is from the 20th year of the First Era, and tells the tale of the renowned Breton sage and author Vornith, traveling to the Isle of Artaeum to meet with Lachesis, the right master of the Sijics. Even then, the Sijics were the counselors of kings and proponents of the Elder Way, taught to them by the original race that inhabited Tamriel. The Elder Way is a philosophy of meditation and study set to bind the forces of nature to the individual will. It differs from Magicka in origin, but the effects are much the same. That said, it is perhaps more than coincidence that the Isle of Artaeum literally vanished from the shores of Somerset at the beginning of the Second Era, at about the time of the founding of the Mages Guild in Tamriel. Various historians and scholars have published theories about this, but perhaps none but Lachesis and his own could shed light on the matter. 500 years passed and Artaeum returned. The Sijics on the isle consisted of persons, mostly elves who had disappeared and were presumed dead in the Second Era. They could not or would not offer any explanation for Artaeum's whereabouts during that time, or the fate of Lachesis and the original Council of Artaeum. Currently, the Sijics are led by the Lore Master Solaris, who has presided over the Council of Artaeum for the last 250 years. The Council's influence in Tamrielic politics is tidal. The kings of Somerset, particularly those of Morundunon, have often sought the Sijic's opinion. Emperor Uriel V was much influenced by the council in the early, most glorious parts of his reign, before his disastrous attack at Akavir. It has even been suggested that the fleet of King Orgium of Piandania was destroyed by a joint effort of Emperor Antiochus and the Sijic order. The last four emperors, Uriel IV, Moratha, Pelagius IV, and Uriel VII, have been suspicious of the Sijics enough to refuse ambassadors from the Isle of Artaeum within the imperial city. The Isle of Artaeum is difficult to chart geographically. It is said that it shifts continuously, either at random or by decree of the council. Visitors to the island are so rare as to be almost unheard of. Anyone desirous of a meeting with a Sijic may find contacts in Potenza and Runsebe, as well as many of the kingdoms of Somerset. Were it more accessible, Artaeum would be a favorite destination for travelers. I've been to the isle once, and still dream of the idyllic orchards and clear pastures, its still and silent lagoons, its misty woodlands, the unique Sijic architecture that seems to be as natural as its surroundings, as well as wondrous in its own right. The Sepora Tower in particular I would study, for it is a relic from a civilization that predates the High Elves by several hundred years, and is still used in certain rites by the Sijics. Perhaps one day I might return. Note: the author is currently on the Isle of Artaeum by gracious consent of Master Sarganius of the Council of Artaeum. Alright. Now, just for stuff and giggles. Huh. Okay. Well, here's my question. How much damage can we do against the collar? Okay. Interesting. Okay, she bamfed and healed, which is both good news and bad news. Let me see. I have some potions of invisibility, so I might as well use them to my advantage.
What was that?
Just so I can avoid the ire of the Oshinox.
Someone there.
Which works only if she doesn't bamf out. See, I want to give you guys a boss battle, but sadly under the circumstances, it's going to be nearly impossible to do so. So in order to do this, well, trying to think here, what's going to be the best option? Elixir of True Shot. Oh. Okay, we did it. We got her. Felglow Ritual Chamber Key. Honestly, she doesn't have anything too interesting on her. Yeah. It would have been a cool boss battle were we not playing on Legendary. It's and I wanted into this treasure chamber, to be honest. I could have tried to pickpocket her, but that would have gone very poorly. But yeah, as you can see, she summons 2 Oshinox, very high level, Frost Oshinox especially. And then when she takes enough damage, she can bamf out to one of the random corners of the chamber and heal herself, as you saw on the first attempt at that. But now what do we have access to here? Oh good, I just used one of those. Thank you, I needed another one. We'll read that in a moment here, because, I mean, this quest is all about books. Also, soul gem fragments don't do you any good here, so I just picked one up. I'm just going to retcon that. Oh yeah, and soul tomatoes, because those are things. Yeah. Satchel. Ooh, excellent. What's in the chest? Amethyst, some gold, a grand soul gem, spell tome, fireball. Woohoo! Robes of Extreme Illusion. Okay, I'll take those. And now, let's read the Wolf Queen, Volume 8. The Wolf Queen, Book 8, by Wayan Sharth. From the pen of Enzolicus, 2nd century sage. 3rd era 120. I don't know if this is the same. This is going to be a different voice than I've used for this in the past, but 3rd era 127. Following the Battle of Ikidag, the Emperor Uriel Septim III was captured, and before he was able to be brought to his uncle's castle in the Hammerfell kingdom of Ghislaine, he met his death at the hands of an angry mob. This uncle, Sepphoris, was thereafter proclaimed emperor and rode to the imperial city. The troops formerly loyal to Emperor Uriel and his mother, the Wolf Queen Potema, pledged themselves to the new emperor. In return for their support, the nobility of Skyrim, High Rock, Hammerfell, the Somerset Isle, Valenwood, Black Marsh, and Morrowind demanded and received a new level of autonomy and independence from the Empire. The War of the Red Diamond was at an end. Potema continued to fight a losing battle, her area of influence dwindling and dwindling, until only her kingdom of Solitude remained in her power. She summoned Daedra to fight for her, had her necromancers resurrect her fallen enemies as undead warriors, and mounted attack after attack on the forces of her brothers, the Empress Sephorath Septim I and King Magnus of Lomoth. Her allies began leaving her as her madness grew, and her only Wait, have we read this before? Yep, we've read this one before. I read this last episode. Whoops. Sorry, it took me a moment there to recognize that. Sorry about that. We've seen that content before. Look, a friend has recently told me, commit to the bit. But when it's something you recognize that you read in the last episode, it's like, well, I could read it again. But, I mean, I don't want to make the episode longer than it has to be. Especially since, I mean, that was something that we found on an end table not too... Well, actually... No, it wasn't last episode, it was Yeah, it was 2 episodes ago. Because we were delving through Sorrowfall with Tolfir, and we found that book. It was sitting on a little table. I remember it now.
The Archmage believed it important. It must be powerful.
We don't know that. We don't even know what it is. Where is Arin anyway?
Alright.
This better be good.
I hear the books that went missing.
Well, well. And you seem to be in one piece. Thank you. I'll look these over and inform Mirabelle if I find anything relevant. Night of Tears, eh? I remember this one. Well, isn't that interesting? Did you read it yourself? If I recall it correctly, that has some interesting implications. You should mention that to Toldir.
I will.
And here. I suppose you've earned these.
Ooh, racial phylogeny added. Daughter of the Niben added. 2920 Hearthfire Volume 9 added. Catalog of weapon enchantments added. Response to Barrow's speech added. Wait, the Black Arts on Trial added. These are all skill books. Those are all skill books that he just gave me. So let's read this one first. Actually, I think we've read this one before. Yep. This is definitely one we've read in the past before. So, let's keep moving on here. I have way too many books in my inventory. Daughter of the Niben. We have not read this one. By Sathir Longlet. Brafil is one of the most charming towns in Cyrodiil, sparkling in her simple beauty, illustrious by her past. No visit to the southern part of the Imperial Province is complete without a walk along Brafil's exciting riverport, a talk with her friendly native children, and of course, in the tradition of the village, are the whispered words of the famous statue of the Lucky Old Lady. Many thousands of years before the arrival of the Outmorans, the native Aelid people had long lived in the vicinity of modern-day Brafil. The Niben then, as not provided food and transportation, the village was even more populous than it is today. We are not certain what they called the region, as insular as they were. The word they used would be translated to simply mean home. These savage Aelids were so firmly entrenched that the Brafil region was one of the very last areas to be liberated by the Alessian army in the 2nd century of the First Era. Though little remains of that era culturally or archaeologically, thank Mara, the tales of debauchery and depravity have entered into the realm of legends. How the Aelids were able to survive such a long siege is debated by scholars to this day. All, however, grant the honor of the victory to one of the Empress Alessia's centurions, a man called... Wait. This is one we've read as well. Yeah. No, we've definitely read this one. It quickly got retconned because of an unfortunate encounter in the mountains. It was near the Shrine of Periite, if I remember correctly. It was down at the base of that. I think we encountered a dragon or something that just ripped us to shreds. But we have read that one before, so I'm not going to waste more time than I have to reading a book that we've already read during the playthrough. Or read more of it than we have to. Let's see here. Where? Racial phylogeny. Oh, we've read this one as well. We've definitely read that. Response to Barrow's speech? We have not read this one. Response to Barrow's speech by Mousever, Battle Mage. On the 14th of last seed, an illusionist by the name of Berva Barrow gave a very ignorant speech at the Chantry of Julianos in the Imperial City. As ignorant speeches are hardly uncommon, there was no reason to respond to it. Unfortunately, he has since had the speech privately printed as Barrow's speech to the Battle Mages. It's received some small undeserved attention in academic circles. Let us put his misconceptions to rest. Barrow began his lecture with an occasionally factual account of famous battle mages from Zoran Arctus, Dever Septim's Imperial Battle Mage, to Yegar Tharn, Uriel Septim's the Seventh Imperial Battle Mage. His intent was to show that where it stands, the Battle Mage relies on other schools of magicka, not the School of Destruction, which is supposedly a Battle Mage's particular forte. Allow me first to dispute these so-called historical facts. Zoran Arctus did not create the golem Numidium by spells of mysticism and conjuration as Barrow alleges. The truth is that we don't know how Numidium was created, or if it was a golem or Atronach in any traditional sense of those words. Uriel V's battle mage, Kathoth, was not an imperial battle mage. He was simply a sorcerer in the employ of the Empire, thus which spells be cast in the various battles of Akavir are irrelevant, not to mention hearsay. Barrow calls Emperors Morathathas, battle mage Warlock, an accomplished diplomat, but not a powerful student of the School of Destruction. I congratulate Barrow on correctly identifying an Imperial battle mage, but there are many written examples of Warlock's skill in the School of Destruction. The sage Celaris, for example, wrote extensively about Warlock, casting the vampiric cloud on the rebellious army of Blackrose, causing their strength and skill to pass on to their opponents. What is this but an impressive example of the School of Destruction? Barrow rather pathetically includes Yegar Thon in this list of underachieving battle mages. To use an insane traitor as example of rational behavior is an untenable position. What would Barrow prefer? That Tharn use the School of Destruction to destroy Tamriel by more traditional means? Barrow uses his misrepresentation of history as the basis for his argument. Even if he had found 4 excellent examples from history of battle mages casting spells outside their school, and he didn't, he would only have anecdotal evidence, which isn't enough to support an argument. I could easily find 4 examples of illusionists casting healing spells, or Nightblades teleporting. There's a time and a place for everything. Barrow's argument, built on this shaky ground, is that the School of Destruction is not a true school. He calls it narrow and shallow, as an avenue of study, and its students impatient, with megalomaniacal tendencies. How can one respond to this? Someone who knows nothing about casting a spell of destruction criticizing the school for being too simple? Summarizing the School of Destruction as learning how to do the maximum amount of damage in the minimum amount of time is clearly absurd, and he expounds on his ignorance by listing all the complicated factors studied in his own School of Illusion. Allow me in response to list the factors to study in the School of Destruction. The means of delivering the spell matter more in the School of Destruction than any other school, whether it is cast at a touch, at a range, in concentric circles, or cast once to be triggered later. What forces must be reined in to cast a spell? Fire, lightning, or frost? And what are the advantages and dangers of each? What are the responses from different targets from the assault of different spells of destruction? What are the possible defenses and how may they be assailed? What environmental factors must be taken into consideration? What are the advantages of the spell of delayed damage? Barrow suggests that the School of Destruction cannot be subtle. Yet he forgets about all the curses that fall under the mantle of the school, sometimes affecting generation after generation in subtle yet sublime ways. The School of Alteration is a distinct and separate entity from the School of Destruction, and Barrow's argument that they should be merged into one is patently ludicrous. He insists again a man who knows nothing about the schools of alteration and destruction is the one insisting this, that damage is part of the changing of reality dealt with by the spells of alteration. The implication is that levitation, to list a spell of alteration, is a close cousin of shockbolt, a spell of destruction. It would make as much sense to say that the school of alteration, being all about the actuality of change, should absorb the school of illusion, being all about the appearance of change. It certainly isn't a coincidence that a master of the school of illusion cast this attack on the school of destruction. Illusion is, after all about masking the truth. Ooh. Spicy. Okay. Last, here we have the Black Arts on Trial. The Black Arts on Trial by Hannibal Traven, Archmagister of the Arcane University, Imperial City. History. Necromancy, commonly called the Black Arts, has a history that dates back before recorded time. Virtually all the earliest laws of the land make mention of it as expressly forbidden on pain of death. Independent practitioners of the arts of sorcery, however, continued its study. The Sigic Order of the Isle of Artaeum, precursor to our own Mages Guild, also forbade its use, not only because it was dangerous, but their belief in the holy and unholy ancestor spirits made it heretical. Again, despite this, we hear many stories of students and masters who ignored this stricture. When Galarian left Artaeum, he may have disagreed with the Sigics on much, but he also refused to allow necromancy to be taught in the guild. Almost 1100 years have passed since the time of Galarian, and there have been many archmagisters to lead his guild. The question of necromancy has continued to be asked. The strictures against it in the guild have never been lifted, but attitudes about it have shifted, back and forth over the years. Some archmagisters have been inclined to ignore it entirely, some have fought very actively against it, and still other archmagisters have been rumored to be necromancers themselves. In my new role as Archmagister of the Mages Guild, it is my duty to set policy on this matter. Though I have my own opinions on the Black Arts, I took counsel with two of the most learned mages in the Empire, Magister Voth Curlis of Corinth and Magister Olesitagrakog of Orsinium, and we debated for 2 days. What follows are summaries of the salient points of the debate, arguments and counter-arguments, which led to the resolution of the Mages Guild on the subject of necromancy. Argument by Master Grakog. Necromancy is poorly understood. We will not make it disappear by ignoring it. As an intellectual institution dedicated to the study of the magical arts and sciences, we have obligations to the truth. Censoring ourselves and our scholarship is antithetical to our mission of neutrality and objectivity. Counter-argument by Master Curlis. The Mages Guild must balance its quest for knowledge with responsible caution and ethical standards. It is not censoring a student's course of study to have him proceed cautiously and with purity of purpose. It is not limiting the student's freedom to set rules and boundaries. Indeed, it is essential. Argument by Master Curlis. Necromancy is an anathema throughout the civilized world. To embrace it publicly, the Mages Guild would inspire fear and hostility in the populace at large. Galarian wanted this institution to be unlike the Sigic Order, which was elitist and separatist. We ignore public opinion at our own risk. We will certainly lose our charters in many places, including, very likely, the whole of Morrowind, where sentiment against necromancy is very strong. Counter-argument by Master Grakog. Yes, we should be sensitive to the concerns of the community, but they should not and must not dictate our scholarship. Necromancer to many uneducated persons simply means an evil mage. It is madness to limit our work because of prejudices and half-formed understanding. It is an affront to the purpose of objective study to turn our back on a subject merely because of public opinion. Argument by Master Grakog. Necromancers are the scourge of Tamriel. whether operating independently in concert with the slodes of King of Worms, Menemarco. They are responsible for many horrors, animated zombies and skeletons and other forms of the undead. To best combat this menace, we must understand the powers of the necromancer. We cannot do that by restricting our study to the black arts. Counter-argument by Master Curtis. No one is disputing the threat of the black arts. In fact, that is the very essence of my argument against the Mages Guild, making a school to be taught to our initiates. We can and should know what our enemy is capable of, but we must be careful not to step into a trap of looking too deep into his ways, and making these ways our own. We do no one any good if, by studying the evil ways, we become evil ourselves. Argument by Master Careless. Necromancy is inherently dangerous. One cannot dabble in it. The simplest spell requires the spilling of blood, and immediately begins to corrupt the master's soul. This is not conjecture, but simple fact. It is irresponsible of the guild to teach and thereby encourage a sort of magical study, which has proven itself, time and time again, to bring nothing but terror and misery on the practitioner and world. Counter-argument by Master Grockhog. All schools of magic are dangerous to the uninitiated. A simple fireball spell from the School of Destruction could cause great harm when cast by a novice, not only to others but to the mage himself. The School of Mysticism, by its very nature, forces the practitioner to divorce its mind from logic, to embrace a temporary sort of insanity, which one might argue is very like corrupting one's soul. Argument by Master Grockhog. The guild already permits some forms of necromancy. The schools of magica are, as we know, artificial constructs, originally formulated by Vanus Galarian to divide and thereby simplify study. They have changed many times throughout the years, but at their heart, every master knows they're all linked together. When a student of conjuration summons a guardian ghost, he's touching on the school of necromancy. When a student of enchantment uses a trapped soul, he too may be considered guilty of a black art. The School of Mysticism, as I've stated before, has some kinship with necromancy as well. To state that students may not learn the ways of necromancy is to stifle common skills in the other more historically legitimate schools of the guild. Counter-argument by Master Careless. Yes, the schools are intertwined, but the standard spells of each school have passed the proof of time. We know that a student of mysticism, properly instructed, will not be permanently harmed by his experience. In many ways, it is a question of extremes. How far would we permit our studies to take us? Necromancy, by its very nature, relies on the practitioner going further into the darkness than is wise, virtually guaranteeing his destruction. It has no place in the Mages Guild. Conclusion. The risks of studying necromancy outweigh its usefulness. The guild does not wish to censor the study of any of its members, but it will not tolerate studies in the black arts, except in limited form for the purpose of combating its evil adherents. This may only have been done by rare individuals who have proven themselves both highly skilled and highly cautious, and then only with my express permission and supervision. Afterward, I regret to acknowledge the truth behind the rumor that Master Lucetta Grockhog was more than an apologist for necromancy. She was a necromancer herself. Upon this revelation, the Knights of the Lamp attempted to arrest her at the guild house in Orsinium, but she made good her escape. We have every confidence in the replacement Magister in Orsinium. Though I disagreed, I respected her logical reasoning enough to include her arguments in this book, and I see no reason to remove them. It is disappointing, however, to see that her interest in the truth was nothing more than a euphemism for her slavery to the black arts. This unfortunate situation merely illustrates how essential it is for guildmasters to be wary of the lure of necromancy, and be vigilant to its practitioners' infiltration in our Mages Guild. I believe that is it for the books that he gave us. Yes. Okay. Okay, so we have good intentions. I mean that quite literally. But that'll have to wait for next episode. But
if there are any problems, let me know.
Before we would even approach Tolfdir, let's take these fire salts. I've had this miscellaneous quest sitting in my quest book for quite some time now. You know, this is something that Felix has had to do for quite a while, and he likes to make good on his debts. So let's go ahead and do that, and keep Balaman's Forge running. And then we'll return to the college and finish the episode up. Alright, I'll just loiter around. Why not? I will. Don't mind me, I'm just standing here loitering. I mean...
Come to see Balaman perform miracles with steel, eh?
Balaman.
What brings you to Balaman today? Repair? Purchase? Remember, nothing but genuine fire salts will do. The forge knows the difference.
Stop.
This should be...
Whoa, 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 what's going on here?
Die, damn you! I'm going to put you down.
Oh, there's a thief, there's a thief.
Thief! Nothing!
I need to be very careful here.
Beg me to kill you! No more! I yield! I yield!
Oh.
Must have run off.
Wow, those Imperial soldiers were just firing indiscriminately in here. But I can go ahead and take some things. Why would you steal a bowl and glazed candles? A jug, lockpick, plates, platter.
They say the college has been snooping around
Worst
Sorthol.
thief
Welcome.
ever. Or, you know, to do it in the voice of comic
Looking
book
for
store
some
guy.
armor? A weapon, perhaps?
Worst thief ever. I found fire salts for your forge.
Amazing. These must have been very hard to come by. You've saved my business and warmed an old smith's heart. For that, I thank you.
Beautiful bauble.
1,250 gold, excellent. I need training.
You wish to do what I do? Very
Let's see
well.
how expensive this is. Oh no! Oh, I will.
Return
I
any
will
time.
get back
You're
to
quite
you.
welcome here.
Oh, that's very expensive. Also, before I forget, Felix is going to switch back over to his silver emerald necklace. Otherwise, I will forget to do that. Because he prefers to have a higher sneak skill. Now let's fast travel back to the College of Winterhold and wrap this thing up. Well, here we are, back at the College of Winterhold. Well, that was a nice little two-parter there with Felglow Keep. We found and returned some old books, retrieved them, gained some more magical knowledge within the College of Winterhold, read some interesting stories, learned the lore of Tamriel, of Skyrim, of different factions battling with each other, politics and the like. It's been an interesting episode. I'm glad you joined me for this one. But I want to leave you with this one, going into the next episode. Where will Felix go next? What things have been set in motion by the strange magical orb that now resides within the College of Winterhold? Well, I'm the Nerdy Librarian. Thank you all for watching. If you liked what you saw, don't forget to like, subscribe, and leave a comment. See you guys in the next one. Thank you for watching.